Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mama Genius Hub podcast for season 2. I'm so excited. We're touching on the topic of mompreneur today, and we're going to look at how do we, and again, you know how I hate the word balance, but how do we find that rhythm between being the things we need to do for the business versus things we need to do with our kids? And so we're going to just go ahead and put in our nice new intro today. Welcome to Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams, from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle Kaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing the dreams, the key to actually unlocking your genius. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. And so today with me, I'm so excited to have Chelsea with me. Chelsea Husum is a best-selling author, speaker, and owner and founder of the American GPR and Coring. Chelsea is a trailblazer in the male-dominant construction industry. We're going to hear all about that. And has built a successful award-winning company. She shares insight on both resilience and success, unfiltered. Chelsea's story marks by triumph over adversity. She serves as a beacon of hope, inspiring others to preserve life through life's trials. Her bold, unapologetic approach empowers women to conquer obstacles and emerge strong. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And so welcome, Chelsea. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, let's just jump right into what is your why behind what you do?
I think I just love knowing I'm putting something out into the world. It just makes me feel satisfied, fulfilled. But really being a mama, having 2 young sons watch me, I really want them to be proud of me, and I want them to see mom build something and kind of leave a legacy, no matter how big or how small. But I want them to see that, I work hard, I've built something from nothing, right? And I'm successful.
I love that so much. And I think, and it really does shine when we want our kids to be happy, healthy adults, but they really have to have that model, and you being that model for them. And I feel the same way. At first, I was so, had the guilt of spending hours on things that you're doing. But then now I see them being little entrepreneurs and them getting sparked by their own ideas and where they go. And I find that so inspiring that you share that. I want to dive right into, tell us a little bit more about the construction industry.
Yeah. So I started my construction company in March of 2020 randomly. So a lot going on in the world that time. But so kind of a quick backstory of how I got here, because I didn't plan on this. I kind of just fell into it, ended up here, but I love it. But I have a Spanish degree and a broadcast journalism degree from school. Ended up going into trade shows, experiential marketing for a few years after college. And then after like 5 or 6 years, I didn't feel like I was really doing anything worthwhile with my life. So I quit that job, got my master's in education, and I was a high school Spanish teacher for 10 years. So I did that. And then the last year was not the best, and I just realized I didn't love it anymore. So I had to move on. So I actually took the only job that I was even offered, was an office manager for a different construction company. So I actually took that job and then started mine in March of 2020. And I actually worked both jobs until April of 22. Then I was just like, I physically cannot work 2 full-time jobs at this point. And then finally stepped into mine. So I do concrete scanning and core drilling. So core drilling is like the circular cutting of the concrete in floors or walls. So mainly I'm on commercial construction jobs, hotels, prisons, schools, airports, condos, anything. And I work mainly with electrical and mechanical companies to just more or less cut up the concrete, and then they come in and put whatever it is they put in there.
Wow. So you said March of 2020. How did that come to be?
Well, I mean, it was probably like March 10th or something before everything was insane, right? And really that year I just kind of slowly built the business. So I really didn't do much I really didn't do much at all that year, honestly. And then really kind of hit the ground running the next year.
So how do we, again, let's go back to the word rhythm. And so how do you find your rhythm in the day between your motherly things that you want to do versus the business things? What are some tips you have for moms out
Yeah.
there who are struggling with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think society a lot of times tells us moms, especially and women, that it's selfish to take care of yourself, which I do not agree with at all. So let's just move that to the side and like that's not valid anymore. So I think you need to get rid of, I mean, we always will have some form of mom guilt, probably, honestly, but you need to become okay with taking care of yourself truly, because you will be a better person in the world if you do that. So for me personally, I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I go to the gym immediately while my family sleeps because my phone in construction starts ringing at 6 or 7 a.m. And by that time, it's on and like it's crazy. So that is something that I do for me because if I'm going to say, oh, I'll work out this afternoon at 2 or 3, I will find a million excuses to not. Something will come up with work and I will just be tired and not do it. I guarantee it. So I have to do it in the morning. And then I feel better all day. And then for me, I bust it out when I'm working and my kids are at school, like I get a lot done. And I know being an entrepreneur, I know what I have to get done that day and what can maybe push to the next day, right? But getting outside, getting in the sunshine, walking my dog, feeding myself healthy foods, things like that. Like, getting rid of any bad habits that are draining my energy or making me feel bad, right? Because that's not helping us. So, getting rid of that, putting in positive things that make you feel good and energize you. And I'm super boring. I'm like a 90-year-old grandma. I go to bed by 9 at night. I'm like passed out by 9 because I'm exhausted, but I get up so early, right? But I need a lot of sleep and I only get like 7.5 hours a night. But for me, like if I get less than that, I'm a crazy person.
So since you have so much going up, do you have any tips or recommendations? So you talked about eating healthy, but are there like
Mhm.
ways where any tips you have of how to manage that in the schedule that is so packed?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of like pre-planning. When I was a teacher, for example, if I didn't I knew, so I would make dinner the night before, right? And I would pack my lunch. I would just take a little extra from dinner, pack it so I knew I had a healthy lunch the next day. Because if I didn't, you're going to bet that I was like door dashing some greasy cheeseburger that sounded delicious, right? So I have no self-control with eating. I love yummy stuff. I love sweets. So having like planning ahead and knowing, yes, okay, I have a lunch, it's packed, it's ready to go. And what are you going to have for breakfast? You could, even if it's something you eat in the car on the way to work or whatever, just for me, pre-planning and pre-thinking of things helps me stick to it more.
So it kind of goes into you also mentioned having figuring out what's draining your energy. So do you
Mhm.
have any recommendations on like how to come to that determination of things that might be draining you, or how to even identify that? Because
Mhm. Yeah.
some moms might not even recognize that.
Realize. Yeah, so I'll give an example for me. So I realized that, and nothing bad if you do drink. I love some red wine and margaritas. I'm just going to say that. But I was realizing that I was having 2 glasses of wine, of red wine, and I would wake up the next day with a horrible headache. And till I went to bed, I had it and I felt absolutely horrific. And I was like, okay, now I'm cranky. I skipped the gym because I have a headache. Now I'm going to eat a double cheeseburger and a Coke for lunch because, that's going to help me. And then I snapped at my kids because I'm cranky. And it's just real for me. I was like, that is the one thing that is, if I actually look at my day and how I'm acting, that was the one thing that was derailing all my healthy habits. I'm not going to the gym. I'm not eating healthy. I'm not doing what I should be doing, and then I feel like crap. So that was me. And I just made the choice. Like, I don't have time to have a full day spent like that, where I have too much going on. I'm handling too much. It's just not aligning with me right now. So I made the choice like, hey, I'm stepping back from that. So it's, if we all truly assess like how we're feeling, looking at how we're filling our hours each day, what are our habits, a lot of times there's that one thing that we know it's holding us back, but we don't want to, we're like, it's fine, right? It's kind of just doing some soul searching and looking at what you're doing and what doesn't make you feel good.
I love that so much. And sometimes I think I just wanted to call it out a little bit on here because sometimes that soul searching is the deep work that we just kind of want to ignore. And so I just wanted to hear from your words because I agree with that so much. It's like, I know I should not be doing that. And actually, it's funny when I did the 75 hard, one of the things was not drinking. And and it was just a realization of how much like I was just having 1 or 2 drinks a night or just not realizing it. And just the energy that you take out or things. And it's not that. And honestly, it's like I hardly even want to drink. Like I'm such a lightweight.
Yeah, I know, right?
And it wasn't even intentional to like just say, oh, but it is those realizations about who you are and what works and doesn't work. And I think that's what this all comes down to, especially when we're in that mindset of the word busy. And that's one thing we'll get to a little bit later. But like that word has so much effect on who we are and the things we're doing instead of how we're feeling. We focus on the doing.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you bring in that self-care to focus more on how I'm feeling in the day?
Well, it's like if I've had to ask myself, we're in this constant like overwhelm, running around chaos, right? If you died tomorrow, would you care about most of the stuff you're doing? Probably not, honestly, and so it's like I've learned that when I get in that, like if I have like a lot of late night events, so I work all day and then, I'm going to different construction events or women's events or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I have like 4 events this week. I'm so tired. And at the end of the week, I'm exhausted and I don't want to do anything. And it's like, so yes, there are ebbs and flows of business ownership in life, right? I get that. We have times where we're really busy and other times not as much. But if I've kind of started asking myself, okay, if whatever this event is, if it's for work, is it moving my business forward? Is it moving the needle forward? Like in a big way, I really need to be there, then I'll be there. If it's not, if I'm just going to show my face, then whatever. If I don't really need to, and it's okay to not feel the need to be at everything, right? Same with personal stuff. If you're invited to do something or you have an opportunity, does it directly align with your goals and how you want to feel? If your soul's like, yes, I totally want to be there. That sounds amazing. I love that. Go. But how many of us say yes to things where we feel like pressured into going and we really don't want to go, but we still go to be the good girl and the nice person, right? I mean, and ultimately, you can say no. No's a complete sentence. I am always too nice. And I'm like, well, I feel bad and I feel the need to explain this ridiculous, elaborate thing. You don't need, we need to stop doing that. And if you say, I'm sorry, I can't be there on Thursday. I have a prior commitment, and your prior commitment is like laying on the couch doing nothing because you're exhausted, then that's fine. Like that's fine.
I love that. That is a prior commitment. And actually, as you bring that up, I'm actually thinking of one of my daughters and how she was just struggling with already saying no and that pressure of feeling like you want to please others. And so I was trying to like just listen and get that out a little bit because I struggled with that for so long. And once you start to kind of let that go, one no at a time, one not for me right now, maybe another time.
Yeah.
Like however you want to word it. It doesn't have to be if no isn't your thing. It could be however you want to word it, but just that you're honoring yourself in all of this.
Exactly.
So I totally agree with that. We're going to take a quick break right now, and then we're going to be right back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about being in a male-dominant industry and what's that like, because I'm sure some of you mompreneurs out there have felt that as well. So we'll be right back. Attention mompreneurs, do you feel like you're constantly juggling the responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths, transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. And that's mamageniushub.com. Well, we're back, and tell us, so let's just dive into it a bit. And you've been in a male industry. What are some tips you have for other women who might not feel like they can speak out or
Mhm.
even survive in that kind of industry? We need some tips out there for them.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think really probably the best piece of advice is knowing yourself well. Like I just am who I am at this point. I've done a lot of work on myself, done a lot of personal development, and like this is me whether you like it or not. And I'm not going out into the world being a jerk. Like I'm a positive, kind person, putting positive things out there and want to support everybody, right? But so really I've stepped into this industry. I think there's only 9% women in the entire industry of construction, like all of it, which is sad. But as owners, very probably extremely, probably 1%. I mean, 1% or something, honestly. Um, but I think I've been really received well by people just because I'm honest, I'm genuine, I'm hardworking, and I just want people to know that I care about what I do. But I mean, I have girlfriends that have been in this industry for 25, 30 years. They're the ones that paved the way for me, really. Like they probably dealt with so much more than I do. And I was at a women in construction event recently, and we were talking about how there I've heard this from a few different women. Like they'll go to a job site, and let's say the woman is the boss, like the woman is the top person in this meeting. They're standing there on a job site, and there's probably a few different companies there, and they're all looking at the guy with that company, and he's like, I don't know. Ask her. She's the boss, or she's the whatever, superintendent or whatever. But it's like naturally they just look to the man, right? And we were just kind of having a giggle about it because it's like, I mean, I don't know why. But yeah, I think you can go into any industry, whether, whatever it is, but you have to go in confident and knowing who you are and what you offer and what value you bring. um really, I think maybe that's just because that's how I approach it, that's kind of what comes back to me. And if I have somebody, being a jerk to me or treating me poorly, I don't have to work with them again. Like I don't have to work with them. I get to choose who I work with too. So I wouldn't put up with anything like that, but I've been very lucky.
So I want to take a step back from it. I've been reading the book Worthy by Jamie Kern Lehman. I think
Mm,
that kind of goes with what you're saying
yep.
with knowing your value. And so,
Yep.
what are some ways or exercises that you have for moms to really do the deep work and figure that out? Because I know
Mhm.
it's like easy to say, but it's one thing to actually do and believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's like I need to feel inspired and seen and go through, we all have gone through adversity. Have you worked through that? Have you healed from it? What are you carrying from the past? We've all gone through stuff, right? You have to dive in there as much as some of us. I had a situation, a really bad one happened to me 20 years ago. Didn't do anything. I didn't tell anyone for 20 years. Again, like at some point it's going to come out. So, you have to do the work, heal, get inspired, learn, grow. That's kind of what I do. I read tons of books. I'm always trying to learn, taking courses or whatever, surrounding myself with other driven women that I leave and I'm like, yes, I feel so good. But it's, and I'm sure in Worthy they talk about it, but we all have things that maybe we were told as children or whatever, right? We were people pleasers or we just stayed silent because that was easy, right? But you have to go through that and see like where those trigger points are for you and what does that come up, were you told, oh, you talk too much, as a kid
Yeah.
or whatever, and then you're scared to like speak your mind, right? There's all these things from the past, but you know looking at what you feel called to do in the world, but it is like journaling and thinking, what is holding me back? And maybe you need to go to some therapy and work through it. I've been to therapy all kinds of different times in my life for various things and just in general. That's a huge piece as well.
I agree. I think, and sometimes we downplay the mental health aspect of it all and really
Mhm.
taking care of what's inside and we can just brush it
Mhm.
off. And I think a lot of it is that instead of saying, we start with how are you doing rather than how are you feeling? Because we just
Yeah.
disassociate from all our feelings. And I struggle because Actually, in my therapy, it's kind of funny that the therapist would always say, okay, you're storytelling again. What are you actually feeling? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't want to talk about that. What?
But that's kind of like where he started. It's like when I talk about the check-in process, like just checking in, going, what am I actually feeling in my body right now, and what
Mhm.
actual emotion am I associating with right now? And again, those all states ebb and flow, but if we're not
Yeah.
identifying them, then it makes it really hard. I love how you put that.
Well, and one time this was a few years ago, and I was at a gathering, like a birthday party, and I remember I walked up to this woman who I've met numerous times, and I was like, "How are you?" And she's like, I could say good right now, like everyone expects me to, but I'm not doing very well. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, me either. Thank you." I mean, truly, we're like, "How are you?" "Oh, I'm good. I'm okay." I
I'm
mean, it's just
fine.
like, "I'm fine." It's just like this natural thing we say, and we could have just had the most traumatic thing ever like 5 minutes ago. We're like, "I'm good." It's like, no, like you can
I
actually be
love the look on your
real.
face when you said that. I'm good.
You can actually be
So
real and
true.
vulnerable and be like, I'm a mess. Like, we all are a mess, but we need to stop feeling like everyone out there's perfect. And then we suffer in silence and we feel like we're the only one that's not perfect. And that's so not true. It's just ridiculous. Like, why do we feel this way? And if you actually are real and vulnerable with someone, you find your people and you can connect on such a deeper level.
It's so true. And I mean, that's what the whole genuine connection is all about, because when
Mhm.
we're just having those superficial conversations, I mean, it's half time you want to pull your hair out and you're like, okay, do I have
Exactly.
to keep doing this? But it's like when
Yeah.
you actually connect with someone and be real and not
Mhm.
just the Facebook friendly
Yeah. Right?
aspect.
I
Because I mean, you
know.
look at those pictures and you're like, well, what happened to get that picture? I had
Yeah.
four
Oh, yeah.
kids screaming, but then they finally got together for one smiling picture, and that's what I post.
Yeah.
But the whole backstory or who we really are,
Mhm.
we're hiding from each other, right, in
Yeah.
plain sight, as Jamie Cameron Lima actually does say, like, we're hiding in plain sight. And
We
it's
are.
funny when you said that, because she also points out that, like, when was that first time that you used to raise your hand all the time, and when was that first time you
Mhm.
stopped
Mhm.
raising your hand because you were embarrassed, or because you didn't know the answer, or because you thought you'd
Yep.
look at you differently because you did know the answer? And I've seen that happening to my kids as well.
Yep.
Like, just that decision making that goes all into it.
Mhm.
So we're going to dive straight into our questions for you,
Okay.
because we're getting closer to the end. So number one for you, what's a podcast that has helped you manage your busy life? Again, we'll talk about the busyness as a mom and a business owner.
I love Chris and Lori Harder. They have two separate podcasts and they do one together. They're just real. They call it like it is, but they have such good tips for entrepreneurs and busy people. So I personally love theirs. I'm always like, yes. And I also Lindsay Schwartz, her Powerhouse Women is really great as well.
What's the feel of that one? I'm kind of curious.
It's just being authentic, being like again, stop hiding, go out and whatever you're meant to put out in the world, like go. Let's and support each other while doing it.
I love that, because I think that's what this is all about. And
It is.
it's that we like thought we have to do it by ourselves, though. I think that's the
Yeah.
male perspective, is that you have to go out and be aggressive and do this by yourself.
Mhm.
But I love the women feminine point of view, where we're like, let's raise each other up, let's support
Yes.
each other, and we will all rise together. And I love that
Exactly.
so much.
Mhm.
Number two for you is fun home activities. What's a fun activity you and your family that keeps everyone happy and helps you either organize or just having fun together or joy?
We love just being outside, honestly. So we're doing chores outside or random things like that. We love playing games and like not really a home activity, but our favorite thing is to camp and boat together. Like we love that. And that's our happy place for sure.
I love it. It is fun when you get out into nature and fresh air and we just forget
Mhm.
it. And we were
It's
even
a
talking
game
right before
changer.
when we got on the podcast, and actually the sun's coming out. I was telling her that I had to go to my son's track meet. I was like, oh, I thought it might rain and it would get canceled. And now actually we talked about getting on nature. I'm like, actually, I'm really glad it's not canceled, because it was my built-in break from getting away from
Mhm.
all of this. And I think
Mhm.
that's what it really comes down to, our scheduling is making sure that we're scheduling in those different parts of our day. Because like you said, with the
Mhm.
exercising, if we don't plan for it, then 2 o'clock, there's no way.
Well, yeah, and also I think too, one thing that just baffles me, and I'm guilty of this, we all are. But when you're a kid, the whole point is to find joy. and play and laugh, and they belly laugh all the time. And I can't remember the study, but it talked about like how many times a day a kid belly laughs and how many times an adult belly laughs. I'm going to tell you, it's sad. It's like instantly depressing. But like, especially as busy moms and women, we juggle insane amounts of things. When was the last time that you actually looked at yourself and said, what brings me joy and would make me laugh? And I would think I'm like playing. And it's not even just to do like with your children, but like what actually brings you joy. And you need to start building that into your at least once a week.
Yes.
I get it. It might not be every day, but like at least once a week, go have fun and laugh and do something silly or that you just love. And also, I will say too, a game changer. At last year at Mother's Day, I told my children we're going to a knitting class to like make them angry, and they were all cranky, and it was so funny. And we went to like Boondocks, and I said, you know, I always go to brunch, and then I have some mimosas, and then I go like, then I go home. It's just another day, which I love me some brunch. But I was like, I want to do something different and have fun and laugh. And it was the first time I played laser tag. It was amazing, like so much fun. And we just had a blast and laughed together. And it was hysterical when they realized we're not going knitting. They're like, what? We're going to Boondocks. So now that's my goal on Mother's Day every year, is to be like, what's something different and fun we can go do and laugh?
I love that. Yeah, we were talking about doing different family adventures and just fun things and getting out there. But it is really the intention behind it, and just really trying to. We forget as adults. And so it's just being inspired by our kids, having so much fun. My 7-year-old comes over to me. It's just like, this morning she was just sitting on the stairs and she wanted hugs. And I was like, oh no, I'm okay. I'm going to stop and embrace that right now, rather than to keep rushing through it all. And I think just taking those moments, which leads us straight into number 3, which is we're talking about the idea of busyness, because we keep describing, I've just noticed mom after mom, every time I'm working with them or talking with them, I'm so busy. I got so much going on, but I want to work on, how do we redefine that? How should we talk about those things? It's funny though, because to this day, still, I had this question a little bit different in the last season. I would always be like, how are you doing? We always answer, I'm busy. And to this day, in my mouth still comes out, how are you doing? Like, I can't get that to stop. It's been like ingrained in me so much, that even consciously, I'm still trying to like figure out something else.
Yeah.
So any suggestions from you?
Yeah. I mean, I think we ultimately, it's harder with children because that just takes the busy to a whole new level. But I wrote about this in my book too. It's like, what are you ultimately as the adult have the control. So is your kid in 5 activities? Okay. I'm guessing you're probably miserable because that's all you guys do. And your kid's probably miserable and they're eating dinner at 10 at night and they're doing homework till midnight. Because I was a teacher. I've talked to students. They're overwhelmed. They're in too much, honestly. So can we pull it back to maybe 1 or 2 activities? Like ultimately, we don't need to all be doing everything, nor do our children. I give my kids 1 activity each at a time. And I'm like, I am not doing anymore. Like I will not. And I already am exhausted running them around to that stuff. And it's not even that much, but it's like, okay, look at your week, look at your month. How are you filling your days? And if all that stuff makes you be like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted, you need to make some hard decisions and you need to make a change, because you could be on a runaway train of your life on your deathbed and be like, wow, how'd I spend my time? Oh, I just ran around and was exhausted all the time, right? Yeah. Or you need to start being more intentional about how you spend it. If, you could wipe everything clean and no, we're not doing anything if you needed to, if everyone needs a break or whatever. But you ultimately are in control of your life and your happiness. But we all just like say, oh, I'm so busy and it's a runaway train, like I said. But let's like rein it back in, people. Like rein it back in.
Language matters. It matters the way we describe it, the way that we feel it. Because I don't know, the word busy just kind of like makes you tense.
Yeah.
And so the way we bring it up and the way we start to say, actually, as you were talking, I came with the idea came up asking someone, what were you intentional about today? And I think when we come back with the intention of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and we just start using that word more in our vocabulary of why we're doing something, then we start making more meaning with it.
Yeah. Yep.
Which leads us on to number 4, especially for you, with celebrating success. So what does successful mean to you, and how do you celebrate when you've done something great in your business or as a mom, however you want to take it?
So for me, success is not working 60 to 80 hours a week. It's not having a quote successful company on the outside, like it's appearing to do well, right? But then you turn around, your family hates you, your kids hate you, you're getting divorced, your health's in the toilet, you just hate your life. Like, to me, if that's success, I don't want it. So for me, being successful is actually looking at what are my priorities in life, making those non-negotiables, filling my business in around it, because you actually can do that. I spent last year, I turned 40 and I was like, I want to turn 40 in Italy. I went 10 days in Italy and I run the entire company. I don't have employees that do anything else besides my employees that are on a construction site. So I do everything. And so, but I made it work. I went and had the best time. I've been on the beach in Mexico and I've had, but I make it work, or I go skiing with my kids and then I come back to the hotel, throw them in the pool and I work a little bit. It doesn't, my hours might be a little weird or it's just different, but I also am living my life at the same time, which is really cool to me. You know what I mean? And I have the flexibility to travel or do whatever, but yeah, I might have to sacrifice a little bit of time there, but I still get to do it. So you ultimately can create the life you want, but you, like I said, are in charge and you have to make the decisions to get there. So what matters to you, that is first. Everything else can come second.
I love that. Which leads us right into number 5 with inspiring our kids. How do you help your kids find what they're good at and living in their genius?
I love that. I'm always going to be their biggest supporter, cheerleader. I really want them to be dreamers. I do. I try to talk to them about things that, if I have a big meeting, they're like, "Oh, mommy, good luck at your meeting." And then I get them from school. They're like, "How's your meeting today?" I'm trying to talk to them, or we go get my mail at the PO and they'll go get the checks. They're like, "Did we get a big one today?" I'm actually talking to them about some of this stuff and trying to show them. And like I said, I want them to be dreamers. I want them, society, my 7-year-old, he's a really big spirited child. We call him the honey badger. I have stories for days with this child. It has not been easy, but it's been worth it. He's worth it. But man, it's rough sometimes. But I say to people, he's like a big spirited child that the world's trying to put in a box. They're trying to make him like everybody else. He will never be like everyone else, nor should he. It is more difficult trying to parent children like this and keeping them in school and getting them through school successfully. Please pray for me. But I mean, it's it's so hard to support them and encourage them while not letting them succumb to the pressure of society to be the same and do the same as everybody else.
It's so true, that whole sameness of everyone needs to be in the classroom in a certain way and all the rules. And when you were talking earlier, the other thing that popped in my head was curiosity and questions, because kids at the age of 3, like we were talking about the joy and the belly laughs, will ask 100 questions. By 11 is down to asking 2 questions a day. And then by the time you're 22, 2% of the people are even asking questions. And that's really comes down to the curiosity and figuring out what you want to do. And so I'm going to leave everyone with the challenge today of really one of my first challenges, you kind of put it out there already, is activating your RAS system, your reticular activating system, by asking, what do I actually like doing? And you were saying do it once a week. Guys, my challenge for you guys today is do it for 10 minutes. Find something today, depending on what time you're listening to this, or tomorrow, for 10 minutes that you're going to do that enjoying, and just kind of see what happens. Because as you start to put those questions out there, that's when, just like when you get the new car, you start seeing it everywhere. That's what happens when you start activating the RAS, that you start questioning, what do I enjoy doing? Which it came directly from Chelsea today. And I love that. And so with that, what final message do you have for everyone, and how can they get hold of you, Tom?
Yeah. I would say my message is just lean into being authentic, vulnerable, real, raw. Let's just connect. Stop trying to be perfect, because we're not. And life is so much more enjoyable when you're just, I'm a hot mess. You want to come along with me? Right. But I would say the best way to find me is at my website. It's chelseahusum.com. And I actually on there, right when you go, I have a free, it's called Your Unapologetic Life Workbook. And it's really, these are things that I was thinking about when I get in kind of a rut in life. These are things that I look at and I assess. So that is free if you want to go grab that. Hopefully you find some use of it.
Oh, I love that so much. Well, Chelsea, thank you so much for coming on today. And we're dived into a lot of different ideas today. And we'll see you on the next one. And we'll go ahead and play that outro. Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius.